Atlantis, a lost civilization that was said to be more advanced and prosperous than any known culture at the time, and has intrigued humanity for millennia. The historical significance of this legend lies not only in the possibility that it existed, but also in the powerful metaphor it represents for the human condition and our deepest desires and fears. The story of Atlantis was first mentioned by the ancient Greek philosopher Plato. In his texts, he describes it as a powerful and advanced civilization that existed in the distant past. The ancient philosopher tells us of a society that was advanced in every way and possessed both knowledge and abilities far exceeding those of the ancient Greeks. But what really sets Atlantis apart from the other ancient cultures is its moral decay. According to Plato, the Atlanteans became increasingly brazen and power-hungry, which eventually angered the gods and caused their island to sink underwater in a catastrophic cataclysm. This tragic end of a once great civilization has been interpreted by some as a warning about the dangers of pride and the fragility of human society. Delving deeper into the mystery of Atlantis, many theories and hypotheses about its actual location are revealed, from the Mediterranean to Antarctica and even to America. Some experts believe that it was an actual civilization that was destroyed by a natural disaster, such as a volcanic eruption or tsunami. Others believe it is purely a myth, a cautionary tale invented by the ancient Greeks to illustrate the dangers of unchecked human ambition. But whatever the truth, one thing is certain: the story of Atlantis continues to capture the imagination of people around the world, inspiring countless works. Continuing our journey to uncover the truth about Atlantis, we invite you to join us on this mysterious and fascinating journey as we explore the records left by time and challenge the limits of our consciousness. Together, we will unravel the secrets of this lost civilization and discover the powerful lessons it holds for us today. Historical context. As already mentioned, the first recorded mention of Atlantis is by the ancient Greek philosopher Plato in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias. In these texts, he describes Atlantis as a vast island continent located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, the modern Strait of Gibraltar, in the Atlantic Ocean. The island was divided into 10 districts, each ruled by a king of the royal family. The capital is said to be a marvel of architectural and engineering prowess. The Atlanteans used their advanced knowledge to reshape the landscape, notably creating a vast network of canals, levees, and lakes to control the flow of water and harness its potential. Plato even describes a special mechanism that raised an artificial mountain in the middle of their capital. What this mechanism consisted of is still a mystery. The city also had a palace complex, which was said to be the largest and most magnificent in the world at the time. Plato also mentions that the Atlanteans acquired a large number of gold and silver mines, possessed an abundance of fish and marine animals, and amassed great wealth through their trade. Its description is unique in that it is one of the few myths of its time to include a geographic location. In the dialogues, he locates Atlantis in the Atlantic Ocean. This ocean location is significant for 2 reasons. First, it speaks to the Atlantic Ocean being named after Atlantis. Second, it is a metaphor for the world beyond the control of civilization, a place of mystery and uncertainty. However, Atlantis is not only a Greek myth. Other ancient cultures also mention the lost civilization in their myths and legends. Long before the pyramids rose from the sands of Egypt, the ancient Egyptians told stories of a land called Zep Tepi, or the First Way, which some believe may be a reference to Atlantis. It was a time of splendor and great miracles. Then the gods walked among the mortals, and the world was still new. The ancient Egyptians believed that in this land the god Atu incarnated himself and the other gods, and that the Nile River flowed directly from the source of all life. Over the centuries, however, the world has changed. The gods withdrew to heaven, and the Nile began to overflow annually, bringing new and different life to earth. This led the ancient Egyptians to build the pyramids as a means to connect with the gods and the power of Zep Tepi to ensure the continued prosperity of their civilization. The true secrets of Tepi, however, are lost to time, buried deep beneath the sands of Egypt. The Phoenicians, a civilization known for their seafaring abilities, also tell of a great island civilization that the gods destroyed. These similarities between ancient cultures lead some experts to believe that there may be some truth to the story of Atlantis. Theories and hypotheses about the location of Atlantis. The search for Atlantis, the legendary lost civilization, has excited the minds of scientists, adventurers, and dreamers for centuries. But where did this mythical place actually exist? According to one of the theories, Atlantis is located in the Mediterranean Sea, and according to another, on the island of Crete. It is also believed that the city of Tartessus, in present-day Spain, may represent the remains of Atlantis. Still, others suggest that the lost city is located somewhere in the Aegean Sea, possibly on the island of Santorini, which was destroyed by a powerful volcanic eruption. A theory suggests that Atlantis is located somewhere in Antarctica. Its proponents point to the evidence of a warm, unfrozen Antarctica in the distant past, as well as similarities between descriptions of Atlanta and the Antarctic landscape. Another theory suggests that Atlantis may be located in the Americas, with some suggesting the Caribbean as a possible location. According to many researchers, Atlantis was a real civilization that was destroyed by a natural disaster, such as a flood or an earthquake. This theory is based on geological evidence of a great flood in the Mediterranean region about 9,000 years ago, and the discovery of unusual prehistoric artifacts, such as the Piraeus map and the Bosnian pyramid, which appear to have been created by a lost civilization. One of the most intriguing theories about the location of Atlantis is that it was located in the Caribbean Sea. According to it, the Caribbean Sea was once an ocean basin, and during the last ice age, the sea level was tens of meters lower. The Caribbean Sea basin would have been the ideal location for an advanced civilization, as it was protected from the harsh climate, yet was easily accessible by the rest of the world. Many attempts have been made to locate Atlantis, including in the Mediterranean Sea, the Atlantic Ocean, and the Americas. For example, the discovery of an underwater city off the coast of Cuba, later identified as the remains of a sunken Mayan city, fueled speculation that an advanced civilization may have existed in the Caribbean. In the 20th century, the discovery of a large, now dry riverbed on the island of Mauritius in the Indian Ocean led many to theorize that it was evidence of a massive flood caused by the Atlanteans. These theories are also supported by evidence of ancient civilizations that were destroyed by natural disasters, as well as the fact that many of the places proposed as the location of Atlantis have a history of volcanic activity. Regardless of where it was, the mystery of Atlantis continues to captivate and inspire us to this day. The search for this lost civilization is a constant reminder of the fragility of human existence and the power of nature. Will we ever discover the true location of Atlantis? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain: the search for this lost city will continue to capture our imagination and fuel the desire to uncover the secrets of the past. The influence of Atlantis on popular culture. The story of Atlantis has been addressed in countless works of fiction, including poetry, plays, and even movies. For example, the story of J.G. Ballard's 1965 Sinking of Dreamland imagines a modern-day Atlantis found in the Gulf of Mexico. In literature, one of the most striking examples of the myth of Atlantis is Herman Melville's 1851 novel, Moby Dick. In it, the main character, Captain Ahab, is described as a modern incarnation of the mythical Greek figure of King Minos, who ruled the island of Crete and was considered the founder of the lost civilization. In the visual arts, the myth of Atlantis has been recreated in many different ways, including in paintings, sculptures, and even in decorative architectural elements, such as the stained glass windows of Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. In cinema, Atlantis has been recreated many times. One of the earliest examples is the 1921 silent film, The Lost City, which featured a Tripolitan pirate named Ali Pasha, discovering the lost city of Atlantis. The story of the dreary civilization has also been recreated in films such as Disney's Atlantis, The Lost Empire, Warner Brothers' Justice League, where the story was used as the basis for a fictional underwater city, Stargate Atlantis, and countless other titles. But it is not only in fiction that the legend of the ancient civilization continues to excite the imagination of people. The idea of a lost city waiting to be discovered has inspired countless expeditions and even entire fields of science, such as maritime archaeology. As we continue to explore the depths of the ocean and uncover new mysteries, the legend of Atlantis will continue to inspire our search for it. Perhaps one day, we will find the lost city and uncover the secrets that have been buried beneath the waves for so long. But until then, the story of Atlantis will remain one of the greatest mysteries of all time. Some conspiracy theories that revolve around Atlantis. While researching the mystery of Atlantis, we have come upon many theories, as with any mystery that has existed for decades. And here are several alleged, even called by some conspiracy theories, that have emerged that add an extra layer of mystique to the already fascinating history of the ancient civilization. One of the most popular theories is that Atlantis was a technologically advanced civilization far ahead of its time. Some believe that the Atlanteans possessed technology such as aircraft and even weapons of mass destruction. Their claim that the civilization's sudden and mysterious disappearance can be explained by a catastrophic event, possibly caused by their advanced technology. Another intriguing theory is that Atlantis had contact with extraterrestrial life. It is said that the city was built by ancient aliens, or that Atlanteans themselves were of alien origin. The idea has been suggested that they had direct contact with extraterrestrial beings, and that the loss of the city was caused by the withdrawal of their aid, or by their departure. While these theories may seem far-fetched, they continue to excite the minds of many. As we continue to explore this fascinating subject, we can't help but wonder if there is some truth to them, and what other secrets the lost city may still be hiding. As we near the end of our journey, we hope it has piqued your interest and imagination as much as it has ours. We have looked at only a small part related to the origin and theories that have been put forth over the centuries related to the lost city of Atlantis. We have seen that while concrete evidence of its existence remains elusive, the search for it has captured the minds of many and led us on a journey of discovery and imagination. We invite you to continue to explore the mystery of Atlantis and learn from its lessons, as the pursuit of truth and understanding is a never-ending quest. The magnificent Troy, mythical or an actual ancient city? Until the end of the 19th century, Troy was associated with a place that existed only in the legends of Greek mythology. No one imagined that this was a real ancient city from the time of the Bronze Age. Legend has it that the city was besieged for 10 years, then conquered by the Greek army led by King Agamemnon. At the heart of this Trojan War, according to Homer's Iliad, was a woman. This is the kidnapped Helen, Queen of Sparta. She was abducted by Paris, son of the king of Troy, Priam. According to the Iliad, the gods constantly intervened to support the heroes on both sides of the conflict. In this video, we will embark on a quest for unraveling the exciting history of the ancient city of Troy. In 1870, the mythical Troy became a real historical place when the German archaeologist Heinrich Schliemann discovered the ruins of the city on the coast of Western Asia Minor. Whether the Trojan War really took place and whether the site in northwestern Turkey was the same as Troy is still a matter of dispute. To date, the location bears the name Hisarlik. Studies say that ancient Troy was established at least 2,700 years ago. Then, in fact, the ancient Greeks colonized the west coast of Turkey. In the 19th century, the theory of Troy from the Iliad seemed to be supported after the German businessman and archaeologist Heinrich Schliemann carried out a series of excavations at Hisarlik and came across treasures he claimed belonged to King Priam. Specialists believe that the Trojan War took place at the end of the Bronze Age. At that time, the Mycenaean civilization flourished in Greece. The representatives of this civilization built huge palaces, created new cities, their own alphabet, and a rich culture. The earliest dated accounts of this war come from Homer, who lived around the 8th century BC, which is to say, several centuries after the events. However, they seem to have been written down even later, probably in the 6th century BC, when a tyrant named Pisistratus ruled Athens. Homer's Iliad describes the events of the 10th year of the siege of Troy, specifically following a series of events that appear to take place over several weeks. The story goes that the siege did not go well for the Greek force sent to bring Queen Helen back to Sparta. The war puts both sides at an impasse due to the fact that the Greek forces cannot penetrate the city and the Trojans cannot push their enemies back to the sea. A number of key events are described in the poem. Particularly interesting is the duel between Paris and Menelaus, king of Sparta and husband of Helen. The stipulation is that the winner will receive Helena as a prize, and that will put an end to the war. The gods, however, intervene and interrupt the duel before it is over, so the war continues. Toward the end of the poem, we witness another important duel between Achilles and the great Trojan warrior Hector. The Trojan knows that the Greek warrior is superior to him and makes 3 laps around Troy with Achilles in pursuit. However, the gods force him to stand against the Greek warrior, and Achilles destroys him. A detailed video about the gods in Greek and Roman mythology can be found on our channel. The Iliad does not end with the destruction of Troy, as is commonly believed, but with a temporary truce, after which the battle most likely continues. The Odyssey, again a work by Homer, tells of the time after the destruction of the city by talking about the Greek hero Odysseus trying to get home. In a poetic form, it briefly mentions how the Greeks were able to penetrate Troy thanks to the famous Trojan horse, presented as a gift, representing a huge wooden structure hiding within itself the Greek army. Thus, the Greeks cunningly penetrated the city, and while everyone was asleep, took it by surprise from the inside. The ruins of what is now called Hisarlik in Turkey, and recognized as Troy, have been inhabited since ancient times. According to the studies done by archaeologists, the city was inhabited more than 4,000 years ago. The first people arrived around 3000 BC. The inhabitants of Troy do not live in peace. Archaeology reveals that over the years the city was often destroyed, and a new city was built on its ruins. An interesting fact is that Troy is not alone. At least 10 cities lie on top of each other, buried in different layers of the soil, said University of Amsterdam's researcher Gert Jan van Windgarten. He says that archaeologists had to dig very deep to find the remains of only the first settlement. It happens to be a small town surrounded by a city wall of unhewn stone. A bas-relief of an unknown deity stands at its main gate. It is different from the Greek deities we know and welcomes the guests of the city. Troy gained popularity throughout the ancient world in the period after 2550 BC. The city raised a strong army, and its strategic location led to a flourishing trade. The population of Troy rapidly grew wealthy. The boundaries of the city are also expanding significantly. The massive defensive wall was built, made of cut rectangular stone blocks. A powerful citadel was also erected, and the population lived in spacious stone houses with front and backyards. Excavating this level of Troy in 1873, Heinrich Schliemann discovered a great treasure. In his opinion, it belonged to King Priam. The impressive collection included weapons, gold, silver, copper, and bronze vessels, gold jewelry, including thousands of gold rings, as well as many other objects made of precious materials. These finds were found along the outside of the city wall, near a building that Schliemann suggests was the royal palace. Other researchers theorize that the discovered treasures are not part of the same hoard, but precious objects collected at the site over the years. In the decades that followed, this theory was confirmed, with items dating back to times older than Priam's. To this day, the exact size of the city is still debated. Another archaeologist, named Manfred Korfmann, who also studied the area, says that the excavations show the existence of a smaller city within the city. He also says that Troy had a large residential area under a heavily fortified citadel. As far as we know, the citadel was second to none, both in the region and in the whole of southeastern Europe. The problem with recognizing this city as Homer's Troy is the way it was abandoned. Cracks in its walls suggest that it was struck by an earthquake around 1300 BC. This event was most likely followed by an uprising or attack. Von Windgarten said signs of fire and destruction were visible, leading to the suggestion that there may have been some fighting. However, it appears that the earthquake caused the most damage. He suggests, however, that the city was rebuilt after its destruction by the same groups of people who inhabited it before, rather than by foreign Greek powers. It is assumed that around 1190 BC, the city ceased to exist. This is a time during which the Mycenaean civilization in Greece was already destroyed by the so-called Sea Peoples. Around 1000 BC, the city and its surroundings are again abandoned. It was occupied again in the 8th century BC, around the time Homer lived. The new settlers had no doubt that the place was the legendary Troy of legend, says von Windgarten. At a later stage, its inhabitants even took advantage of this fact to attract political support and ancient tourists. In its first centuries of development, Ilion was a modest settlement, pale in comparison to the grandeur of ancient Troy. Many scientists believe that people who moved to the city after 1000 BC are Greek colonists. However, this hypothesis was soon disputed. In the Oxford Journal of Archaeology, we find a published research carried out by a team of scientists which reveals that the Troy's amphora, thought to have been imported from Greece, is actually a local work. Much of the pottery discovered in Troy after 1000 BC also produced by the local population and not imported from Greece. This has led scholars in recent years to suggest that many of the people who returned to Troy may not have been Greek colonists, but rather people who returned to the area. Despite the expressed hypotheses and doubts, there are still facts of history that suggest that Troy or Ilion had a special status among the ancient people. The Persian king Xerxes, traveling to conquer Greece, stopped to pay his respects to the city. Alexander the Great did the same in the 4th century BC. He also gave special status to the city in his empire.
It is supposed that the city of the present Iliani was for a time a mere village that had a temple of Athena, but once its greatness was known throughout the world,
writes Strabo, who lived 2,000 years ago. The special importance of Troy continued during Roman rule. The Romans believed that Aeneas, one of the heroes of Troy, was the ancestor of Romulus and Remus, the legendary founders of ancient Rome. The townspeople capitalize on this mythology and make the town a popular destination for pilgrims and tourists. Troy thus became one of the largest eastern cities of the Roman Empire. The fall of Rome and the transition from antiquity to the Middle Ages, accompanied by civil wars and barbarian invasions, had a very adverse effect on the legendary city. A decline followed, as around the 13th century AD, the town is now reduced to a humble farming community. Recent DNA analyses of the region reveal that humans finally left it around 800 years ago. One of the biggest questions that is still the basis of debate in the scientific community to this day is whether there was ever a Trojan War. If there was, are the remains found really of Troy? The only written records found in the city from the time these historical events are supposed to have taken place are in a language called Luwian, which came from the lands of the Hittites. Scientists say that the description of Troy in the legend strikingly coincides with the revealed real city. However, there are still many archaeological remains to be explored. It appears that during the Trojan War, Troy was destroyed by earthquakes and then settled by people from Southeast Europe, not Greece. Research continues today. Nowadays, Troy is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and one of the most popular tourist destinations visited in Turkey. The history of this ancient city continues to excite people from all over the world to this day. More similar videos you can find in our channel. Support us by sharing this video and subscribing to the channel.